Hello and welcome to Political Science Lectures. Today we'll be learning about Kautilya, who was also known as Chanakya or Vishnugupta. He also contributed to the Arthashastra tradition, which belonged to the Dandrashastra tradition. This Dandashastra tradition deals with Dand as the central subject. Dand, that is coercive power or punitive power of the state. Dandashastras also deal with Dandaniti, Rajniti, Niti Shastra, etc. Dandashastra texts also contain ideas on dharma, purushartha, varnas, but the focus is on statecraft. Arthashastra means the science of acquiring wealth. Thus, Arthashastra deals with the strategies of acquiring wealth or land and managing power. Out of Arthashastra works, Kautilya's Arthashastra is the most well-known text. So let's see what were the key ideas present in Kautilya's Arthashastra. The key ideas present in Kautilya's Arthashastra were his ideas of origin of state, nature and function of state, organization of state that included the Saptanga theory, his ideas on diplomacy that included the fourfold principles and the Shadgun Siddhant, his comparison with Machiavelli, etc. Saptanga theory included the description of 7 organs of the state with king as the center. Then we came on Amatyas, then came Durga, that is fort, then he had Janpad, then he had Kosh, then he had Dand, Bal, then he had Mitra or allies. According to Kautilya, king is at the center. Kautilya said that the king should be strong. Even if other elements of the sovereignty are weak and the king is strong, it would work. Kautilya also mentions that the single wheel cannot run the chariot. This is a message to the king to understand the importance of other elements of the sovereignty. King is at the center but is dependent on other elements like Amatyas and has to take care of his army or his people. Thus, king cannot go autocratic. King Kautilya has also mentioned the responsibility of the king towards its subject. According to him, in the happiness of his subject lies the happiness of the king. Kautilya also mentions about the Raj Dharma. Kingship is not a privilege or a right in Hindu text, it is a responsibility. Even Manu mentioned that king has to treat his subject as his own children. Now let's see what are these Amatyas. They have the second position or place in his Saptanga theory. They are the senior ministers or advisors of the king. Kautilya gives desirable features of the Amatyas, that are they should be a native man, must be bold, wise and skillful, not be fickle-minded, must follow the king, must try to remove the defects in the king. Kautilya has also given practical guidelines to king regarding Amatyas, that our king should have at least 3 Amatyas. It is difficult to control one Amatya. 2 Amatyas can join hands against the king, hence there should be at least 3 Amatyas so that one can at least be on the favor of the king. Amatyas are important but king should not trust them completely. They are potential threats to the king. King should have regular check on the integrity of Amatyas. Kautilya recommends the use of spies to have a regular check on their character. The third element is Durga or fort. Kautilya has given elaborate ideas on Durga and various types of fortification. He talks about water fortification, mountain, desert, etc. Importance of Durga. They reflect the strength of state. State's offensive powers and defensive power are also reflected by Durga. Fourth element is the Janpad. Janpad is a rural area inhabited by common people. Each Janpad is divided into divisions. There was elaborate system of administration under the Mauryas. Each division headed by an officer known as Sthaniks. Each division divided into further villages. Head of a village is known as Gramik. Different villages combined or put together under an officer called as Gop. The fifth element is Kosh. Its significance is that it is necessary to perform Raj Dharma. It is also necessary to keep the army loyal. King inherits the Kosha. Kosha should be sufficient to face calamities. The sixth element is the Dand or Bal. He suggests an army of Kshatriya, however other castes can also be considered. He also talks about hereditary army. Army should be well paid and maintained and well trained. The seventh and the last element is the Mitra or allies. Symbolic importance of the allies is that the allies Mitra are acknowledgement of the king's power. Everyone wants to be the friend of the powerful. He also discusses the quality of Mitra is that he should not only be willing to help but also should have the capacity to help. Kautilya is realist plus expansionist. So let's discuss his Mandala theory. Mandala theory is one of the earliest theory on geopolitics. It is also one of the earliest example of balance of power. According to Kautilya, international politics is like a jungle where the strength of the lion prevails. He applies the principles of geography and psychology in foreign policy. Geography shapes psychology. The king, who is immediate neighbor, will always treat the Vijigishu as his king. Here Vijigishu is the king that desires victory. So the first basic principle in Mandala Siddhant is that the greater is the distance, lesser is the enmity. He also says that neighbor is your natural enemy. Neighbor's neighbor is your natural friend because enemy's enemy is your friend. All friendship in interstate is guided by interest and convenience. Relation can't be taken for granted. It is important for Vijigishu to acquire power. What are the advantages of Mandala theory is that king can secure his kingdom, friends will remain his friend, even enemies will try to be friends with the king. King has to take in consideration all elements of sovereignty of his friend. Mandala theory is one of the most significant principles in international relations and cannot be overlooked altogether. It may not be relevant in regions like Western Europe, Southeast Asia, etc., but it remains relevant in South Asian situation. It is also true that the theory belongs to the time which is different from ours. Since 1990s, there has been a growth of interconnectedness in nations. Nations have become more interdependent because of the rise of economic interdependence and global threat. In our times, the principle is more like one is not safe if the neighbor's house is burning. Which brings us to Kautilya's view on diplomacy. His first view on diplomacy is known as fourfold theory or the smart power, which includes Sam, Dam, Dand and Bhed. Sam is known as treaty, Dam is known as economic diplomacy, Dand is known as force, and Bhed is known as dissension or division in the enemy state. The second principle of his diplomatic theory is a sixfold policy, which is a war strategy, which is also known as Shadgun Siddhant. It includes Sandhi, which is enter into a treaty with a stronger enemy. Second one is Vigrah, which says breakdown of treaty to go to war again. Then is Asna, to station forces near the enemy, for example Operation Parakram. Then is Yan, that is exercises, for example combined naval exercises that India conducts with the United States. Then is Samashray, alliances with a state with similar interests. Then is Dvait Bhav, to talk something else and prepare for war simultaneously. He writes the quality of the ambassador as he has to be charming, he has to be dedicated towards the king.